La Fredbear, a Springlock animatronic created by... That's myself. Hello? Hello?
Easy Wheels started as my...
Alright, advertisements. Hell yeah. Let me just quickly make sure everything's running fine. Looks that way. Unfortunately, I have to do this in the dark, but it's fine. It's fine. Might mean my webcam looks a bit shitty and low quality. Sorry about that. Next few streams, promise it will be light and all that stuff. But today we're reacting to the Game Theory's final timeline. The ultimate timeline, actually. They found a new word for final, which is ultimate. Lucky they've picked a new word. We're gonna go through this. We're gonna see what's different between my timeline and his timeline. Let me find the image I had on my timeline. Okay, wait. Let me put this up for stream as well. Image. Let me quickly get this image. There it is. This one. This was my timeline. This is what I thought the timeline was. Everything. So we're gonna see how different our timelines are. I'm very curious because I watched the GT live he did. He said he found some new things out. So let's see what he found out. I'm intrigued. Stream looks like it's doing fine. So let's just let me close that. And let's make sure it's in 1080p. And let's begin.
Today we end the torment.
Is that loud for you guys? Is that too loud for you guys or not? I have no idea. And let's make sure it's in 1080p. And let's begin.
Today we end the torment.
Okay, it's normal volume.
Today we end the torment. 19 books, 11 games, 8 whole years, all leading to this moment. The ultimate FNAF timeline is finally complete. The pieces are in place for us. Now all we have to do is put this story of tragedy, jealousy, and loss back together.
It's just
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that feels like a kid revealing the class project that he's been working on all year. Except here, it's the class project that I've been working on for the past decade of my life. This one is big, my friends, and I gotta admit, kinda nervous. I haven't attempted a timeline video on this franchise since 2018.
Just in case you're wondering, I'm just opening the chat up on my phone. I'm not listening to this, don't worry.
Back in the days when Mike was the crying child, Afton coming back was actually a surprise, and Fazgoo wasn't a phrase I'd ever thought I'd have to utter. But since the last time I did something like this, we've had 3 more massive games, the death and revival of the FNAF movie, and more robot kids than you can shake a staff bot at. It is exhausting trying to keep track of this whole franchise, which honestly is why I'm here today. The lore at this point is complicated. It is full of speculation and theory, so to hopefully make it a little easier for everyone and to give us all a baseline to talk about this franchise moving forward into the future, it's time to reveal my current working FNAF timeline. But just before I do, I just want to explain a couple of things. First, this timeline is massive. Seriously, it is huge. This thing towers over any video project we have ever done on the channel. But when you look at the totality of this franchise, the story of FNAF really boils down to the story of one man, William Afton. His successes, his failures, his rise to becoming co-owner of one of the most successful restaurant franchises in the world, and his...
At first, I did think it was about... I thought the first 3 games were just about the missing children and that era, and then after that, I thought it was all about the Afton family. But now with all these new games, it seems like the entire story is just about William. Like, when in the character encyclopedia, if you read William Afton's page, it literally just says he's in every single game. The whole story, it's just him. It's not about his family, not about, you know, the people he's killed. It's just about himself, and
eventual fall to
everything
the
is
monsters he helped to create, only to then be reborn in a new digital form later. That's why I've decided to split this timeline into 3 main chunks. The foundation of Freddys, how the business started and how it came into being, the Afton era, William's decades-long murder spree, and post-Purple Guy. Basically modern FNAF. Everything that happens after the pizzeria simulator fire. And because there are lots of new big revelations in this thing that seemingly come out of nowhere, as well as just points I want to talk about further, I decided to dedicate 1 episode to each chunk. I originally wanted it to be one seamless, continuous video, but it just felt incomplete without some sort of explanation at the end of each one. Once this whole thing's done, I promise I'm gonna merge all the narrative bits into one massive video so you can just skip my explanations. But for now, this just felt like the best, most satisfying, most complete way to do this. That being said, this is still about the story, the broad strokes of the franchise. So in order to make sure that you guys know that I'm not just pulling answers out of thin air, not only am I discussing some of the more controversial bits at the end of each chunk, we're also putting in a handy little graphic in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, which will show thumbnails, video titles, books, and any other citations that we need throughout the video. So if you wish to understand that specific statement in more detail, you know exactly where we've taken it from. That way you can look into those details for yourself. So sit back, grab some popcorn or your pitchforks if you're the type to get upset when I say something controversial, and make sure that you subscribe, since this is going to be a video that you're going to want to come back to a few times in order to fully dissect. Without any more waiting, I present to you the story of a loving, obsessive father who slowly descended into madness, and along the way discovered the secret to eternal life.
Chapter 1, Foundations.
Our story begins not in the 1980s, or even in the 1970s, but all the way back in the 1930s. It was the throes of the Great Depression.
Okay. What? I'm sorry, I didn't expect to hear 1930s in the FNAF timeline, and I didn't... Look at this image you're seeing on screen. FNAF The Ultimate Timeline, USA, what? Okay, I'm interested.
People were in desperate need of cheap entertainment, especially in Utah, one of the states hit hardest, 4th highest unemployment in the nation and full of transients. People looking for work in Salt Lake, finding none, and ultimately moving on to find their fortunes out in California. People were tired and they were hungry, but as they traveled, there was one thing that could lift their spirits. A simple roadside attraction called Fredbear's Singin' Show. The ads were plastered all over town, featuring an animated bear drawn in the popular pie.
Okay, so he's saying this isn't Fredbear's Family Diner or a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This is an original thing. Huh. That's something I've never thought about, ever. Honestly, I've just associated that with Fredbear's Family Diner because all the other old posters were all Fredbear's Family Diner. Huh. Okay, this is interesting. Okay.
Eyed cartoon style for characters at the time. He resembled cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop. It immediately said that this, Fredbear's, was a place where you could bring the family. And the price, honestly, couldn't be beat. For 50 cents, you could get food and entertainment as you watched the local trained real-life dance.
Wait, sorry, I just want to look at the poster again.
I'm
trying to think. Is he basing? So he's basing it off of the 50 cents general admission. I assume so. Because I was just trying to think, like,
Fredbear, food and entertainment as you watched the local trained real-life dancing bear perform on stage. Normally, you only got to see dancing bears at large traveling circuses like Barnum and Bailey, where the tickets would go for about $1. That's $1 without food. But this was a smaller show, like the type from the Von Brothers or the Robbins Brothers, where tickets would sell for just a mere 50 cents. Watching that bear do tricks on stage brought a glimmer of joy at a time when so much was wrong with the world. The simple show would go on for years, bringing happiness to hundreds of travelers passing through looking for a quick meal, but it left a permanent impression on one little boy, capturing his imagination in a way that nothing else had. One little boy named Billy. That was his nickname at least, but his parents like to call him William Afton. The bear could dance, he could sing. For decades, William dreamed of recreating that moment of bringing a musical bear to life, but
which is what I like,
William was smart, without a doubt, and he had a keen mind for business, but he wasn't the most creative. How do you make a singing, dancing bear come to life? The best he could do was using rudimentary costumes. William was inspired by the work of Walt Disney, who throughout the 50s and 60s was pioneering the use of mascot suits throughout his theme park. The big innovation? Suits with 5 fingers. This allowed the performers wearing the suits to use their natural arms and hands to interact with the guests, as opposed to the older models where the arms would just hang limply by their sides.
This is interesting.
Finally,
How much
with a
real,
simple
like,
mascot
real
suit,
life
he would be able
stuff
to
he's
realize
using
his
this.
childhood dream. He would be able to bring Fredbear to life. To appeal to the kids, and for copyright reasons, he changed Fredbear from a realistic brown animal to a cartoonish yellow bear with a purple hat and bow tie. But feeling like one character wasn't enough, he added another friend, a yellow rabbit with a purple vest and matching tie named Bonnie the Bunny. While Fredbear was certainly his first love, Bonnie was extra special because that was his. It was an original character that he had created from scratch. And I do mean scratch. William's hand-sewn costumes were rough with seams and stitches visibly showing, but it was the best that he could do. And you know what? It was just enough. Bonnie and Fredbear would perform on stage to small but enthusiastic.
That is something.
Dude,
I'll just quickly go back. The whole glitch trap, whether that, like the model, let's say, whether that actual design is the original Spring Bonnie design, that's something that I've always thought about, because it's like, you can't really expect that William made a whole new suit design, whatever, just for the game, because it's not him who made it. It's Fazbear. Yeah, that's right. It's Fazbear Entertainment who made the glitch trap suit. So I'm assuming that in universe they made it based off the actual Spring Bonnie suit, which is why even in my timeline I always used this glitch trap model for the original Spring Bonnie, because I feel like it's definitely, almost definitely, that is who this is. This is glitch trap. The model used for glitch trap is the original Spring Bonnie mascot suit. I've always thought about that, which I'm glad he's pointing out the stitches and stuff.
And you know what? It was just enough. Bonnie and Fredbear would perform on stage to small but enthusiastic crowds. Finally, he was able to deliver fantasy and fun to all the kids, delighting and inspiring them in the exact way that he had been delighted and inspired so many years ago. And things could have ended there. That could have been the end to his story. It could have been perfect had it not been for one thing. Other people saw the success of his idea and they wanted in. Enter Chica's Party World, a rival restaurant starring performing animal characters. His idea, except they did it better. William may have been the first, but obviously he wasn't the best. It hurt the prideful William Afton to admit it, but this restaurant was able to do the thing that he always wanted to do, make the animals actually come to life. All of the performers in this restaurant were robots, simple metal skeletons that were powered by battery packs, but all of them able to freely turn and talk and dance on their own, no human required. It was like magic. Magic that came from the mind of a brilliant creator named Henry Emily. This Henry, in some small way, had been able to harness the power of life itself. Afton admired him. He was jealous, to be sure, but he also looked upon this man with awe. Off to one side of Chica's Party World was a small cabaret stage.
Because last theory, he said that the mediocre melodies were made by Henry and were outside of Afton. So it was like Henry and Afton, and then they eventually teamed up to make Fazbear Entertainment. So he's saying that Fredbear's Family Diner isn't a Fazbear Entertainment thing. They eventually came together and then made Fazbear Entertainment. Okay. I mean, that still works. Because when I was doing the character encyclopedia video that I just released, I mentioned the detail about how it said that these guys, the mediocre melodies, are, what did it say, like off-brand or like imitations of the like off of the Freddys them lot made by William or whatever. It said that they're meant to be imitations. Which means that the mediocre melodies have to be made after the originals were made. So this still makes sense if Fredbear was made and then Henry's making imitations of Fredbear, Nedbear, that stuff. So this still works so far. So, okay, so this is actually
stage featuring an elephant magician. On the other, a hippo known to ramble on and on. That one was more of a joke for the parents, but it was the main stage that was for the kids. A rocking band of characters featuring a yellow chicken thing with a southern drawl named Chica, backed by a band of other country-themed characters, including a pig with a banjo, an upbeat frog from the local swimming hole, and a...
Okay, I just saw, why is it so dark in your room? It's literally like... it's really, really late right now. It's a Saturday, so I'm able to be awake at this time, but it is really late right now, and I'm not turning the light on because honestly, I'm probably going to sleep straight after this. Like, I'm going to watch this, I'm going to digest it, and then sleep. That's
Brown bear with a heavy southern accent. Wait, a bear? But bears were his animals. Why not a cow or a horse? Something to fit the country theme a bit better. Why'd it have to be a bear? And adding insult to injury, they had the nerve to call this thing Ned Bear, a direct copy of his own Fred Bear.
Whoops, that's gonna leave a mark.
No, that was not okay. Afton's jealous admiration turned to hardened bitterness. A bitterness that would only grow over the next couple of years as families continued to choose Chica's party world over Fredbear's. William just couldn't compete with the appeal of the robots. Eventually, his restaurant would go bankrupt, only to get bailed out by, of course, Henry Emily.
Yeah, I can tell where this is gonna go. He's already. I'm just predicting this. He's gonna say that William killed Charlotte because Henry's designs or ideas or whatever were surpassing his, and he got jealous. Because so far, he's saying that the story is that William was already jealous, and now that they're teaming up, he still remained jealous, and he's going to kill Charlotte. That's what he's going to say.
Another insult, another humiliation that William wouldn't soon forget.
Yes.
1979. Despite being bitter, Afton couldn't deny that what came next was a period of massive success and expansion. With the two franchises now merged into one, it was the best of both worlds. Afton's ideas with Henry's robotic expertise. The two men decided to launch under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, a pizza chain that would eventually come to feature a mix of humans in performing suits as well as on-stage animatronics. They decided to stick with Fredbear as the headliner, considering the yellow bear was easily identifiable as a brand, and because he was the original performing animal mascot. Afton appreciated. This new restaurant would also see a mix of characters as the two franchises merged into one, with Pig Patch and Happy Frog performing right alongside Fredbear and Bonnie. And as part of this one big Fredbear family, they even got themselves official merch that were released, ranging from masks to magnets.
The crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet?
So that's why he's saying they were in the same restaurant, because of...
That said, not all the characters were winners. The reception to some characters was just mediocre. So they faded away into the dumpster, storage units, and retro budget tech stores of lost nostalgia, waiting for their chance to step back into the limelight if and when a headliner went out of commission. Others, though, would fare much better, like a new Pirate Fox, as well as a blue guitar-playing variant of the yellow Bonnie Bunny. Ultimately, the franchise would get so big, it would spawn its own cartoon show, Fredbear and Friends. Business was booming. In the end, Fredbear and Bonnie's popularity would be so strong that they would be able to support the Fredbear's Family Diner franchise all on their own, while also spinning off a new sister location dedicated to their friends. In 1983, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza launched, giving a dedicated home to all this new supporting cast of characters. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, Foxy the Pirate, and of course the headliner, a brown Freddy Fazbear. Business was good, and Afton was happy, mostly. It did bother him that the one original character that he created, the one that he himself played, Golden Bonnie, got passed over for inclusion in that cartoon show. The only character in the roster of regulars to get ignored for the show, but other than that, things were going smoothly. He had himself a wife, 2 sons, a daughter, he had a thriving business, and best of all, he was able to learn—
I'm glad he's still saying Michael is William's son, because I don't know if you've seen the recent GT Live where he went over the character encyclopedia. He said at the very start, it was the clip from like the middle, he said, I don't know if Michael's in Afton. And that got me thinking, oh no, please don't tell me you're going to say in your timeline that Michael's not in Afton. So I'm glad he's still saying that, because that would have been...
Learned the craft of robotics from the man that he both loved and hated, Henry. Together, they were constantly pushing the limits of what these characters could do. Because it was quick and easy, new characters introduced into the roster would be given a simple hand-sewn suit with 5 fingers that any performer could wear. Eventually, Henry would design one of his signature animatronics for that character, utilizing a divided mouth with either a hinged or sliding jaw design. This was the first generation of animatronics. But why stop there? Afton had big ideas. What if the animatronics weren't just locked to the stage, but could freely roam the restaurant and interact with the kids? What if his mascot suits could become animatronics? What if you could use more than just rigid metallic skeletons? Why not experiment with tubes and wires that would give the animatronics fluidity and flexibility while still providing structure? The possibilities for this technology were endless. Afton fell in love with robotics. He had started with a dream of bringing one simple singing bring Bear to life, but with robots, he had stumbled across the tools that gave him the ability to control life itself. And thanks to Henry, he was practically speedrunning his way to an engineering degree. And while William wouldn't admit it out loud, one other thing that kept pushing him forward was the desire to beat his former rival, to prove himself smarter and more capable, to surpass the man who everyone else considered to be a visionary genius. But pride cometh before the fall, and tragedy was about to strike. Okay, so that brings us to the end of part 1 of the story. That said, at the end of each of these...
Wait. I still see 10 minutes. Okay. I can't tell if he's saying there, wherever it was, that the fun times are made now, or if he's just saying that right now he's creating the ideas for better animatronics and stuff. Because I do not think the fun times come before a murder. They almost have to come after a murder, because it would make more sense that he murders Charlie on his own. He's like, oh, I love murder, blah, 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 whatever motivation. And then he creates the fun times to do it automatically and to do it without him needing to get his hands in any dirty water. The animatronics can just do it themselves. And then when that fails with Charlie, then he goes back to murdering himself, which is why, he lures kids himself. So it makes sense if he makes the fun times to kill after he's already killed it. I hope he says that in the next part. But just by that little bit he was talking about there, I thought he was going to say it before.
These chunks, I want to break down some of the logical leaps that I made, since the more narrative format doesn't give me much of a chance to justify a lot of the big decisions. And admittedly, there are some large leaps in here. Let's just start off.
The fun times were created for murder, which means they would have to be after he's murdered. If it's before, there's a little logical jump, but yeah.
Off with Fredbear's Singing Show, shall we? We know, based on the retro poster that was hidden in Security Breach, that at least at one point, Fredbear was an actual bear. And like I called out in that narrative segment, dancing bear shows were a real form of entertainment. The only problem is that, timing-wise, none of our main characters would be the people form of entertainment. And like
Okay, I do agree that, this makes sense, that this could make sense that it's 1930s, it's real bear, blah, blah, blah. But I do have to say, in the posters for Fredbear's Family Diner, which includes Fredbear, includes Spring Bonnie, people who we know are mascots and/or animatronics, they are drawn the same sort of way as Freddy, which is cartoonish, realistic looking. So I'm not sure that you can use that drawing to say that it's a real bear, but I do agree with the price thing. It makes sense, but it's just that little thing saying that that's a real bear, because the like I said, the posters for Fredbears, which are animatronics or just our mascots at that time, they also have the same art style. But I do agree with the price, and also does Freddy have a tail? Fredbear have a tail? I don't know. With the claws and stuff. I don't know. You could get away.
I called out in that narrative segment, dancing bear shows were a real form of entertainment. The only problem is that, timing-wise, none of our main characters would be the people in charge of that business in the 30s and a series of pizza restaurants in the 80s without them just being extremely old. Best case scenario, if Afton's running the singing show when he's 18, that still puts him at nearly 70 when the first pizzeria opens and his murder spree begins. That just doesn't make a lot of logical sense, because he doesn't become immortal until his first death in Springtrap. That's why I suspect that Fredbear's Singing Show was either a family business that Afton then carried on to a new generation, or something that he saw as a kid and just wanted to recreate when he grew up. The Fredbear Singing Show thing also starts laying the groundwork for some of the core elements of this story, that Freddy's was a place of fantasy and fun, and that Afton, despite eventually falling to become the heartless serial killer and mad scientist that we know him as, began as someone with good intentions and a love of entertaining kids. He wanted to bring things to life from the very beginning, a theme that recurs a lot for him throughout the rest of the franchise. Next up, let's talk about those mascot costumes. One thing that I keep going back to is the design of Glitch Trap. It's a handcrafted suit. You can see the seams and everything. It even has 5 fingers for the performer's hands. It is very much not a Springtrap suit. This is something much more rudimentary. It came at a time before animatronics were a part of the story. 100%. That's why I suspect that it was actually the first, predating literally everything. It's
like I said, Fazbear Entertainment, who made the VR game, knew what Spring Bonnie looked like. This Glitch Trap, this model itself, wasn't just made by William himself for Glitch Trap. It was made for the Pizza Party minigame, for the VR game, for the actual in-universe VR game. That's what the model was based off of. It has to be the original Spring Bonnie. So that I completely agree with this. This makes
also
sense.
A suit that is very personal to Afton. He put his digital consciousness in that form. It's his personal avatar. It's the way that he sees himself. There's also a whole separate discussion to be had here about the habits and rituals of serial killers. So the fact that he's choosing to lure kids and kill them in this particular suit actually says a lot about his emotional attachment to it. So while Fredbear seems to have started as someone else's creation, Golden Bonnie was uniquely Williams, giving him a personal connection. And that's not all. In this whole franchise, only one set of characters have themselves 5 fingers, the Nightmares. Even Golden Freddy, Fredbear, was a 5-fingered wearable suit at one point in the story, as we see in this shot from the graphic novel, before he, like everyone else, was turned into a...
Okay. Nightmares, I agree with, blah, blah, blah. I also think there is another shot of Fredbear who having 5 fingers, like besides the Nightmares, if I remember correctly.
As we see in this shot...
I have to say, graphic novels, don't use the MatPat. Don't use them, because I wish I remembered the exact details, but there are a lot of things in the graphic novels that are either inconsistent, simply done for just artistic choice, just because, you know, they had full creative control, not full creative control, but it was done from their choices, the artist's choices, and you just can't rely on the images, like the graphic novels specifically, because, like I said, there's a lot of, like, small details, sure, but you're using a small detail here, but the small details are wrong, inconsistent, blah, 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 even between books. So I just wouldn't use, just, like, for general FNAF theories, I wouldn't use the graphic novels just because they're all over the place sometimes.
From the graphic novel, before
but
he,
I'm
like
sure
everyone else,
Fredbear did have 5. I'm
was
just saying
turned into an animatronic. This seems to imply that all of the main characters had similar wearable mascot outfits, at least at one point in time, and that whoever is having the FNAF 4 nightmares,
that's Jesus. I don't like seeing them looking like not animals, but as mascot suits. Oh God, that's uncanny as hell.
Mascot outfits, at least at one point in time, and that whoever is having the FNAF 4 nightmares, if they even are nightmares, something that we'll touch on in part 2, saw those mascot suits specifically. Lastly, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the literal elephant. I'm
scared what he's going to say about those nightmares in part 2. I'm assuming this will be weekly, right? So we'll see next week. But I'm very curious what he's going to say about that. And I wonder, even if he says they're Michael's nightmares, I wonder where he'll put that in the timeline. I just put it after, what do you call it? Well, it has to be after FNAF 1. But I put it after Sister Location and stuff. Because in my head, it makes more sense if he gets scooped. And then since his body's not functioning right, it's creating things. That was my explanation for it. But with the phone call, it has to be after FNAF 1. But I'm curious where he'll put it.
Elephant, Orville elephant.
Yeah, I hope it's weekly. I mean, he said 3 parts, so I assume it will be 3, maybe even 4 if he has to do like an extra, you know, here's some of the mistakes or not mistakes, but like things, because people will comment and fix it and all that. So I bet they probably will, because he did say he's going to do 3 parts and then the full 3. And he's probably going to add some stuff, change some stuff, fix some stuff. So there might even be a whole month of FNAF.
as well as the rest
on
of the
this
mediocre
channel.
melodies.
Who
For a
knows?
while now, I've suspected that the mediocre melodies played a much more important role in the story than just being a bunch more animatronics to fill out the roster. Especially Ned Bear, which is just so suspiciously close to Fred Bear. And yet, there are two key details that we're gonna have to justify with any mediocre melodies mention. One, they're very rudimentary with external battery packs, implying that they come very early in the timeline. And two, we know that at minimum, Mr. Hippo does eventually become an official member of the extended Freddyverse. But if these things are supposed to be
Yeah,
cheap,
so they have
generic
the rights
rip-offs, why would you be trying
to
to
these
rip off
characters.
yourself? You wouldn't. You would be stealing someone else's ideas. So if Afton created Fredbear, there would have to be some rival franchise. The only
Yeah, this is the same thing I said in the encyclopedia breakdown, that there have been multiple businesses in this story that end up combining with Fazbear Entertainment, because originally Afton Robotics was its own thing, Circus Babies blah 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 was its own thing, and then eventually they combined with Fazbear Entertainment, which is why in VR and even FNAF 6, Fazbear Entertainment can use those characters like Funtime Chica, Music Man, blah blah blah. Those are fun times, but they can use it without Afton. So there definitely was multiple businesses, multiple companies that all ended up just becoming Fazbear Entertainment only. Which, I mean, the whole Afton Robotics thing, that would also further support his theory that uh Fazbear Entertainment wasn't created until like after some of this earlier stuff like Fredbear's and all that, because it would make sense that Afton Robotics was still its own thing. It failed, all that blah 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 until sorry, my mind's just gone blank. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Shit. Okay, whatever. Keep going.
only other person who would likely be ripping him off, Henry. We've talked extensively about how the mediocre melodies are clearly Henry's design aesthetic, so it just has to be him. I don't think Henry's doing this maliciously. He doesn't strike me as the type. He was likely building the robots at the orders of someone else that was running a rival restaurant franchise. But that's enough motivation to start Afton down a path.
Yeah, remember what I was saying. I meant more as in Afton Robotics. Why would he make Afton Robotics if he's already in partnership with Henry and under Fazbear Entertainment? Why would he join with Henry and then immediately make his own company, side company, without Henry, abandon Henry, and then go back with him? So it would make sense if Fazbear Entertainment was formed after that stuff, after they joined, and they didn't join till after Circus and Afton Robotics and all that, because there's literally no reason that it goes Afton on his own, Henry on his own, together, and then split back up, and then join back. It would make more sense if it's split. Afton makes Circus Babies, blah blah blah. Henry does the Ned Bear mediocre melodies, and then they form, and then it all happens. Because yeah.
Of jealous rivalry, but also begrudging admiration. As the Freddy Files Ultimate Edition says, it's important to revisit the beginning of Henry and William's relationship, so here you go. I think this is where it begins. Also, this is future MatPat here, coming back to add this one in. Seems like the recently released character encyclopedia has backed up all of this speculation. I've had this timeline written for about a month now, but I've also been holding off a bit to see what wrenches this character encyclopedia might throw into it. And on this particular point, I gotta say, it seems like we might actually have nailed it. They actively call out the suspicious similarities to the main Fredbear crew. Quote from one of the pages. Ned Bear looks like an imitation, altered just enough to avoid copyright issues. I don't know about you, but that seems to imply that we were right on the money. Knowing all of this, at one point the franchises had to have merged. That's really the only way that you get Mr. Hippo from the rival franchise as part of the Fazbear crew. This also mirrors a lot of what happened in the real life.
They're able to use the characters that were made specifically so they're not under Fazbear Entertainment, and why in FNAF 6 Fazbear Entertainment can now use them. It makes sense that they were originally separate and now
history of Chuck E. Cheese, with 2 rival restaurants, each with their own casts of characters merging to become one unified brand. Again, we've gone into that in detail with other videos, just wanted to remind you all of that here. But why would I call out the rival restaurant as being named Chica's Party World? Few things, actually. First, we know for a fact that a location named Chica's Party World exists. It is mentioned in the source code teasing sister location, so it is out there somewhere and doesn't fit cleanly anywhere. Second, in the story The Puppet Carver, Chica is very explicitly looped in with the book versions of Pig Patch and Ned Bear, implying that she started as a mediocre melody. Thirdly, her design just fits better with a theme of down-home country animals with southern accents playing the banjo and eating with bibs. And with her being the headliner of the show with her name on the restaurant, it would make sense then that when the restaurants merged, she was the one that was added to the main cast of characters while all the other mediocres faded away. It's also why when Freddys closes after William's killing spree, she's the one to branch back off into her old franchise and is therefore missing in sister location, a detail that's bothered me for years at this point. It might also explain why William decided to stuff his first dead kid into Chica. That one was Henry's creation, not his. Is all of this a big leap? Yeah. Is it connecting a lot of dots that are very spread out across the franchise that I've been holding on in the back of my mind for years? Absolutely. But I think it makes sense. It also serves as a clean answer to a lot of the random threads that Scott's been leaving dangling for years. So with all of that in mind, my friends, we can close the book on the foundation of Freddys. And don't worry, next week I'll be back to give you arguably one of the most confusing parts of this entire timeline situation. Part 2, the Afton era. I promise it will actually be next week this time. No more waiting around. I am just as eager to get this one out the door as you are to watch it. I promise. You know what else I promise? I promise that we'll actually get to talking about the games. I would have liked to have talked about them in this episode, but there just isn't that much in the games that helps us depict anything pre-Family Diner. Although, let's be honest, this franchise has never been just about the games anyway. Even back in the early days of FNAF, we were decoding images and source code that Scott fed us through the website. The modern day books and the clues that we get from those things, now they're just modern extensions of that. All of it is crucial to understanding this franchise and its lore. Unless, of course, Steel Wool finally gets around to making that Fredbear's Family Diner game they want to make so badly.
I
really hope they do that.
Kind of back
I really hope they do that.
I have no clue if we'll ever be able to do this, but getting back to kind of like the origin of like Fazbear Entertainment or the origin of
I would love them to play again.
But in the meantime, while we wait for that inevitably cryptic game, I hope that this start to the timeline helps to fill in some of those gaps. I'm excited to share part 2 with you next week. If you haven't subscribed and rang the bell, make sure you do it now so you're notified when that part drops. I cannot wait to see your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, I remind you, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Go easy on me. Tried my best.
That's it. Okay. I really hope by the end of it, like whether it's by the end of part 3 or when he puts them all together, he makes something like this where it's like just an image, because that's what I originally I can keep that on screen, I guess. But that's what I originally was not annoyed about, but I wished in every timeline video I saw before the one I made, I was like, I wish that they explain all of this stuff, but they just don't give you like an image, just something like that just shows everything. Because the FNAF timeline's big. Every full timeline video's either multi-part or is like an hour long. So you can't really expect someone to remember everything, which is why I did that image, because even though my video was like 30 minutes long, I know people would just forget like all the information I said in the first 5 minutes. So yeah, but I like this so far. He's starting off well. He's starting off good. He's starting off good. I was flabbergasted when it started in 1930 was it? But okay, he's trying to seed out. I can tell he's trying to seed out a motivation. He's definitely trying to get a reason why William kills and why he does what he does, which I understand. It's something I failed to do in this timeline video, and I tried to do in the oh shit, I just destroyed a key on my keyboard. But on the full timeline video, I tried to do that as well. what was my motivation for him? I think I said it was like, I think, yeah, I remember. It was that baby died first, and then that made him go mad. But that was horrible because we all know it's Charlie who dies first. So ignore all that. But yeah, he's trying to set up motivation, and so far it's jealousy. And I get I get where he's going with that, because he's gonna say that that is the catalyst for why he kills Charlie first alone, and it's the most unique kill. Like I said in this video, my video, sorry, that Charlie's kill is completely different from the others. The others are, you know, five kids, you know, but Charlie was just one alone at the very start. It's so random, which I think the jealousy storyline that works for that reason, because it's just, we know it has to be at the start. So the reasoning for him killing his business partner's daughter being jealousy, that makes sense. That works. I get he's trying to seed that out here. I can tell that's what he's trying to do here, is make sure that jealousy is the motivation. What do you say? He also said about Cheeks Party World. Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like he said, all of this is without even starting to go into the games, because it's all, because the whole like beginning of the story is just minus the games. There's nothing in the games about anything before the stories. So it's like, yeah. So currently he's not necessarily disagreeing with anything I said. So currently we're still on the same page. But like you said, it's the middle. It's this basically from Charlie dying all the way to about, let's say 3, maybe even 4. Up till then, it's that whole middle part is a bit, what the fuck? And then then you have 3, 6, custom night, blah blah. That's self-explanatory, pretty much. That's in order, and it's not that confusing. And then, yeah, and then fucking security breach. Jesus Christ, I'm I'm curious what he has to say in part 3 about security breach, because like I said in this video, in my video, AR, VR, they're clear. Their story is clear. Security breach, though, takes a few jumps, takes a few leaps. If William was born in 1930, he would have to be 100 years old. He dies in 1993. 1990. That is true. 1993, he dies. He's a kid in 1930. Okay, let's. How does his MatPat's theory work with his age? I mean, he's not saying that it was created, like William was born in 1930 and saw the Freddy original bear dance shows things in 1930 himself. It could be anywhere between 1930 and 1983, 1979, I mean. So he could have made this literally like 1975, that close to the start of the timeline. So the age can work. Realistically, it can work. Yeah, it can work. Even if he was a kid and saw the show at like 1970, it still works. Because he only dies 1993. So he would be like 30, 40 years old. 40, 50 years old, sorry. Michael's born in the 70s. Yeah, he would have to be. I feel like Michael's like a teenager in 1983. Let's say William had a kid at like 22. 22, 25, whatever. Let's just say 20, just to make it easier. So then 1960, we're saying William's born. And then he would be about 40. Not 40. You know, it works with ages. Even if he was 20 when he had Michael in 1973, he would be... How old would he be in 19... I don't even know. Is there a line in the Silver Eyes? I feel like I remember a line about his age. His age. Was it anything that ever said William's age? I'll have to look at that because I swear there's something. Whether it was him lying as Dave or whatever the night guard was, I swear there was something in the Silver Eyes that said his name, age, or his fake age or whatever it was. Something age. Maybe I'm thinking about something else. Yeah, but the age thing does work. Either way, the age thing works. I think the age thing works. So this all makes sense. I like this part 1 so far. It's good. It's agreeing with what I say, so I'm happy with that. But it's also not going like talking about any of the stuff I've said. So I guess this was sort of just setting the seed for the story, for the rest of the story, for the actual timeline. This is the more setting the seed for it. So we'll see next week, which next week is the first part of my timeline video for the books. For Fazbear's Frights, it's only covering the Stitch Wraith stingers though, which is going to be like 1 episode every month until December, January. I'm thinking about just doing 2 parts in December just to finish it all in this year. But yeah, that's starting next week. So I'm assuming he's releasing it at the same time. I might do the same thing as today. Premiere my video at like 5:30 a.m. Or like when he releases his, I'll premiere my video for then, so I can then stream straight after, watch and see what he says about the game timeline itself. But yeah, okay, that works. And then I guess the final part, I don't think I'm releasing a video that week, so it will just be a random stream, randomly timed stream. I guess like I'll do it like half an hour after his video releases, because it feels kind of dumb streaming immediately when he releases the video. So next week I'll be streaming straight after my video premieres, and then the week after I'll stream 30 minutes after his final video premieres, his video, because I will not be making a video that week. So that works. Okay. What are you guys saying? Sorry, I haven't looked at chat at all, really. Can you link the timeline video with that image? It's on my channel. It's like the last, not the last video I uploaded. The video before the last video I uploaded, called FNAF is Solved. That was just a title that I could think of. DLC is not out yet. FNAF movie. FNAF movie is not going to be canon to the games because it has Michael Afton and Vanessa. I saw the leak today. It's about like it was the logo for a Freddys location, but if I remember correctly, it was the FNAF 6 location. So it's featuring Security Breach characters. It has Elizabeth. Wait, is it Abby or Elizabeth? Abby, which is meant to be Elizabeth by the looks of it. It has the missing children's incident, but it also has Michael. So it's not going to be a part of the game's timeline. Vanessa is like full adult in this movie with Elizabeth, so that just isn't going to work. So it's not going to be in the game timeline at all. I'm not going into the movie thinking this is going to answer everything in the games. It's not. It's going to be completely different timeline. It's going to be like the Silver Eyes, how that's its own story. Yeah, the DLC, that will be like, I wonder when that's coming out. Because the last I heard, they're playtesting it. So I'm assuming it's going to come out like, I don't know. I hope still this year. I hope they don't do what they did originally, which was say Security Breach was coming out in 2020, ended up being 2021 at the end of it. I hope they're not going to do that. Hope so. Covering VR, AR, and security breaches, MatPat said. I mean, FNAF has tried doing that stuff, so FNAF's been covering VR, more just the gap between AR and security breach. That's where all the theories and the clearing up needs to happen, is between AR and VR, AR and security breach. Sorry, that's where all the confusion is. When is the charity stream? That's going to be, instead of doing it every second week, I've decided that I'm going to start them. When is it? I think like the end of March, and then just do weekly, like a weekly charity streams until the final stream, because I can only do that 24-hour stream at a certain date, like certain weekends, because that's school holidays. So, and I cannot do a 24-hour stream if I have school the next day. I can't do that. So I'm doing that during school holidays. So I'm just gonna do it every week, starting from FNAF 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 custom night VR, and then 24 hours in VR. That's gonna be a long stream, but it'll be fun. At least Ultimate is better than calling it Final. Yeah, that's the first thing I realized, is that he didn't name it Final, he named it Ultimate Timeline. Because he said Final a bit too much. At least now, if he says Ultimate Timeline, he's opening up the possibility that, in a few years' time, maybe there'll be another one. Maybe. Doesn't have to be the same bed dancing. Wait, what's that in reply to? Oh, bears live 25 years. Oh yeah, he doesn't have to see the actual same bear. It could just be the bear dancing thing that he likes. Schmidt was Miss Afton's surname. That's where Mike got it from. I mean, that works. Michael's never been called an Afton. Yeah, he's William Afton's kid, but he's never been called Michael Afton. So that works. That could be the case, that it's Mrs. Afton's name. Because that would also work with the whole divorce thing as well. Miss Afton could have taken Michael. Actually, that works a lot, actually. Miss Afton could have taken Michael, which is why in the FNAF 4 house, in the FNAF 4 minigames, it's only Crying Child and Elizabeth's bedroom. That would make sense. What are you gonna stream? The charity streams will be like, how I did what was it? FNAF, but it was FNAF but no cameras. I completed that. I won that. Then I did FNAF but no doors. I got to night 5 somehow. I don't think I've talked about that live yet, but Jesus, I don't know how I did that. I literally was going to, I struggled so much night 3 to get past that without using the doors. And then there was just one time I recorded, I got through night 3, night 4. And I was like, what? So yeah, the charity streams, they would just be like, FNAF 2, but no, I don't know, FNAF 3, but this, FNAF 4, but blind probably just because that's already there. FNAF Sysligation, but FNAF 6, but FNAF Ultimate Custom Night. I know FNAF Ultimate Custom Night is going to be 50,000 mode because I've seen that mod and I want to do it live. So that will be the Ultimate Custom Night one, and then the VR will be FNAF but 24 hours, and it will be me in VR 24 hours. I still need to pick the charity though, because turns out you can't split for the site that I'm gonna use and most streamers use for charity streams. You can't split every donation between 5 charities, so I'm gonna have to pick one for like the whole series of charity streams. But that's fine. I'll just have to pick it. So I don't know how I'll pick it. I might do just like a community poll or whatever to pick the charity, but we'll see. We'll see. What's even Miss Afton's name? Miss Afton. That's the name. Even the Crying Child. That's just Crying Child Afton. No real name. Alright. That's about it for today's stream. I hope you guys enjoyed the video I just released. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. This shouldn't show anything, right? Brain. Okay. So I hope you enjoy this video that just came out an hour ago, but still just came out. That was 3 weeks ago. Jeez. New video next weekend. Sorry, just new video next weekend. We'll stream straight after to see part 2 of MatPat's timeline. Same as the next week after that, except no video from me that weekend. Yeah, go watch this video if you haven't already, like I said. Watch this one if you want to catch up on what my perspective and my timeline is, which is what obviously this on screen is. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. And yeah, have a good rest of your day / night, and I will see you all next time. I'll see you all next week live and for an upload. See you guys. Bye.